Hi everyone, welcome to another English class here at LearnCity. My name is Francis Ikuro, and today we'll be looking at one of the types of nouns that we have. In the last video, I talked about the types of nouns, the proper nouns versus your common nouns, the concrete nouns versus the abstract nouns, your count nouns versus your non-count nouns, your concrete noun, your collective nouns, and your gerundive nouns. So today, today we'll be talking about gerundive nouns. Now, a gerund is an ing form of a verb. A gerund is an ing form of a verb. That means a verb that has ing at the end of it. It's not that simple. Now, when you have a word like read is a verb. When you have a word like dance is a verb. When you have a word like jump is a verb. When you have a word like play is a verb. Okay. Now, when ing is added to the endings of all of these words, okay, they become gerunds. So we call that gerundive nouns. So the verbs now, which have become nouns are now used, which we've changed by adding ing, are now used as nouns. They now function as nouns. We now see them as gerundive nouns. Okay, it's a noun that carries a verbal property. For instance, when you have reading now, read there is a verbal element. Okay, but the noun is now being used as the what? The verb here, which has the ing at the end, has now become a noun. And it has every feature of a noun. Now, there's something I would like to say. If you have reading, which we've called that as a gerund noun, we can also have a case where you have reading as a present participle. And that becomes complicated. Let's solve the puzzle. For reading, he is reading now, full stop. Now, reading there is not a gerund. It's not a gerundive noun because it's not functioning as a what? As a noun. Because it's not behaving as a noun. Because it's not giving us a name of something. It's giving us an action. Okay? Now that is not a gerund. That is called a present participle. And is used to form the continuous form of a tense. It is called the present participle, and it is used to form the continuous form of a verb. He is reading now. Reading there is a verb, is a present continuous tense. Now, it's different from having reading is boring. For instance, it's not boring, depends on the materials you're reading or your motivation and a lot of other things. Okay, reading is boring. Okay, reading is the name that you've given to that activity. Reading is that thing that you've called boring. Do you understand that now? So reading there will now give us the word a gerund. Okay, reading is boring. So reading, underlined reading, is giving us the name of that activity. Okay, now you see that most of these gerundive nouns are actually activities. Do you understand? Activities or descriptions. So it's not giving us the activities. No, activity is a name, right? And description is also a name. So if it's not giving us the activities or the descriptions, then that can't be gerundive nouns. That will be a present participle or functioning as a participial phrase. This is it. You have playing is fun. Okay, playing is fun. So you have playing here, okay, as that activity, as that name of the activity. Do you understand now? So it's giving us the name, so that playing becomes a gerund. Now, because playing is what that person does, or that is the name that you call that particular thing with, and that's what we call a gerundive word, a gerundive noun. Let me give this example. My hobby, reading, or let me say, my hobby, reading. Can I use reading? Let me use something else. Let me use exercising, okay? My hobby, exercising, gives me joy. For instance, my hobby, exercising gives me joy. Now you discover that here, exercising here is my hobby. Okay, exercising is the same thing as what? As my hobby. We're still going to talk about another noun. I'm not sure I mentioned it in our class. Appositive nouns, or nouns in apposition. Perhaps we're going to talk about that in functions of nouns. My hobby, exercising, gives me joy. Okay. There's something interesting that you're going to discover here. Exercising here is a gerundive noun, and it's also my what? My hobby. The interesting thing is that all of these gerundive nouns, okay, must be followed by singular verbs. All of these gerundive nouns must be followed by singular verbs. Reading is, playing is, exercising gives, sleeping is, smoking is injurious or cancerous to health, to your health. Okay, smoking is. So you have the singular verb. Smoking has. Smoking has. Playing has. Reading has some advantage. Has. So you have has, which is a singular verb. You have is, which is a singular verb. You have gives, exercising gives. You have gives, which is a singular verb. Okay, they are followed by singular verbs. Now, there is a complication that can also follow these gerundive nouns. It's because the noun can be extended. Though we're still going to talk about them under phrases properly, but it's important that I mention it now. They're followed by singular verbs, as you've known, but you can have, let's have this case like praying to God. Praying to God is good. Praying to God is good. Now you have praying to God. Now you have the head of that sentence, praying, as a gerund, because praying to God is that activity that you do. Okay, so it becomes a gerundive phrase because another element has been added to it. It becomes a phrase. Okay, now discussion of phrase is still going to make much sense to you. Praying to God is good. You understand that the real agreement there is with every element there, praying to God, okay, which is called a gerundive phrase now, is good. Now you can have reading many plays. Okay, reading many plays gives me joy. Reading many plays gives me joy. Now the agreement is not with plays. The agreement is with what? Reading many plays. Because reading many plays is now seen as that gerundive phrase, as a phrase. Now it's added by a gerundive noun, or it's added by a gerund. So you have reading many plays gives, okay? Because reading many plays is underlined now here as a gerundive phrase. It becomes a phrase because other elements have been added to what? To the head, which is a gerund. Is that clear? So today you've learned about is the fact it's not, that is not enough. Okay, it's important I say something. It can also come after. Okay, you can say my hobby is singing. So singing there is coming after the what? It's coming after the verb. My hobby is singing. I love eating. My hobby is singing. My hobby is not singing. I love eating, but that is true. Okay, I love eating. Eating there is the gerundive noun, or it's a gerund. Okay, now my hobby is singing. Singing there is a what? Is a gerund or a gerundive noun. It's coming after the verb. You can have a case like that. Now it's also the same thing to say I love let's say I love eating fruit, for instance. I love eating fruit. Okay, eating fruit will now become what? Great. Will now become a gerundive phrase because another element, fruit, has been added to the word, to the head. Do you understand? Now we have the case that it can come before the verb. Okay, where we have let's say playing is fun, okay, or sleeping is good, or smoking is bad, right? Smoking, reading, playing, and all of that. We can have after. I love eating. My hobby is singing, okay, or dancing, okay. I can't dance to save my life. My hobby is dancing. So you have them, you have that as gerund. But other elements, when other elements are combined, are added to it, you underline everything there, and you call that a what? A gerundive phrase. Is that understood? Then you can also move to having my hobby, comma, singing, comma, gives me joy. My hobby, comma, singing, comma, gives me joy. Now in this case, you're having singing, which describes the what? Your hobby, which describes my hobby now in this case, because my hobby is still singing. So you can have that what? You can have that gerundive phrase functioning in that, along that three lines or situations. Okay. If you have any question as regards gerundive nouns and a bit of gerundive phrase that I just talked about, please leave a comment down in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel and turn on your post notification, okay, when a new video drops. Thank you.